Welcome to Alaskwatch, the show all about Bigfoot in the great state of Alaska. I'm your host, Beans Baxter. So lace up your boots, zip up your coat, and come with me on an adventure as we explore all things cryptid in the last frontier. Hey everybody, and welcome to this episode of Alaskwatch. Summer is creeping up on us. It's starting to get a little green outside. My lawn's starting to come in, which to my surprise is happening much sooner than I expected, especially with all the snow and everything we got this winter. Still got a pile of snow in the backyard though, just where the plow guy pushed it up and made a big berm. It's a lot smaller than it was. It was taller than I am, but now it's slowly trickling down a little bit every day. Still not super warm temperatures. I think it's maybe gotten the 50s a couple of times, but I woke up this morning and it was like 30, 38, 39 degrees outside. So it's still getting pretty chilly at night. But I think it's safe to say that summer's here-ish. I wouldn't say it's here. Well, I mean, obviously it's not officially here till next month, but um, it's definitely starting to look and smell and feel a lot more like summer. I'm looking at my windows. I'm talking to you, looking at the green grass. So yeah, I think it's safe to say that we're getting into that time of year again. I've been out in the field by this time of year. Not this year. So just because of the snow and some other things that's been going on, I just haven't had time or really the inclination to get out. But that's changing this weekend. I am headed out to a location with Rob Roy and Chuk from Chuk's Outdoors, and we're gonna hang out and hopefully have a good time and just chill and maybe do a little fishing and do some squatching and a lot of talking, especially Rob Roy. But yeah, I think we're gonna have a good time. Hopefully the weather holds. I've been keeping an eye on it, and it's been flip flopping, man. It's been like cloudy, partly cloudy, rain. It's been going back and forth. So if we get a day of rain, hey, whatever. But hopefully it won't rain the entire time we're out. As of right now, like I checked the weather a couple hours ago, as of right now, there's no rain in the forecast. But I mean, it could change. It changes hourly. So who knows what's really going to happen when we get out there. And obviously, where we're going, there is no official weather forecast for that area. I can just do like the nearest city, and it can vary. So I've been there before when it wasn't supposed to rain and it did, and vice versa. I've been there when it was supposed to rain and it was sunny. So we'll see. Whether prediction technology is not quite where we would like to be yet. What else is going on, man? I know I was gone last week. I went and did some dog setting and was just kind of chilling out and working on my next book. And I didn't work on it quite as much as I wanted to. I kind of got distracted by some Major Dad repeats, if you remember that show. It was kind of on in the background as I was writing, and I would find myself like paying attention to it. But I did get, actually, I got a lot of writing done for me, for what's considered a lot of writing. Usually I'm happy if I can sit down and write a few paragraphs, but I actually wrote several chapters, and I'm creeping up on the finish line. And I actually, while I'm writing, I'm actually thinking of what's going on, and then things change sometimes where I'm like, okay, this is going to happen and this is going to happen. And when I get there, I'm like, that's not going to work. I'm going to have to change this and either put this in earlier or take this out completely or put it in later. So that's just kind of my process goes. It's, more of an Indiana Jones. I'm figuring it out as I go along style. There's just like a rough outline, and it's a living document that changes. So, so remember I think it was last episode, maybe the last couple of episodes, I've been complaining about the moose. We have we're infested with moose right now. We have these two moose that are just hanging around the house almost incessantly. I see, which knock on wood, I didn't see them yesterday, either one, but I have seen them quite a bit, and close to the house, in the yard, in the backyard, in the neighbor's yard, uh, in the wood line, and it's got to the point where when we let the dogs out now, we've been letting them out on leashes so that we don't have them take off on us. Well, I got kind of lax on that. I get complacent. I don't see, I'll look out the windows. I don't see the moose. I'm like, okay, I think we'll be okay. And Sunday, I let my youngest dog out. He was sitting by the door, and I let him out, and I go out with him, and he goes over to the tree line, and he's doing his business. He's doing his dog business, and he's looking into the trees, and he sees something, and he kind of perks up, and I could tell he sees something, and I'm thinking it's probably a rabbit or a squirrel because we do have a lot of rabbit and squirrels this year. If you saw the last trail camera mix I posted, it was like 99% rabbits. It's just we have moose and rabbit infestation this year. So I see him kind of perk up, and he has occasionally chased the occasional rabbit, which I don't care. I don't like him doing it, but it's not like he's going to catch them, and it's kind of funny because he's a little Frenchy and he's not built for speed at all. So I see him notice something, and then he kind of takes off at a dead sprint, and I look, and kind of on the other, so there's a green strip, a tree line, and on the other side of it is kind of like a field that goes into my side neighbor's like backyard. And on the other side of the tree line, I see this moose take off, and then the dog goes after him, and I'm like, oh shit, not good, not good at all. One, obviously, I don't want my dog to get trampled by a moose and get hurt. Two, super illegal for your to allow your animals to harass wildlife. Not that I was allowing him to, but he's young and he doesn't listen, and he takes off after the moose, and I'm in my house shoes. So I turn around, run back inside real quick, get on my outside shoes, and run to the closet and grab my shotgun because I'm not going to let this moose trample my dog if I can't help it. Obviously, I don't want to shoot anything right now. I just want my dog back. But I'm not going to go chase after the dog who's chasing after the moose without some kind of protection. So I grab my shotgun. My wife, tell her what's going on. She jumps up. She gets her clothes on, not clothes on, shoes on. She was dressed, I promise. And we all like run out, storm the woods, basically looking for the dog and the moose. And I'm stalking through the woods like freaking Elmer Fudd, calling the dog. And he comes, running up to me eventually after several tense minutes. And we get him and get him back to the house, and he's okay. Apparently, I'm sure the moose probably outran him easily, and then he got tired and turned around. So we get him back in the house, we check him, he's okay. I think my wife was probably more upset than anybody, and kind of getting back to going about my business. Don't really think that much about it. And this pair that's been hanging around the house is, I believe it's a mother in last year's, almost said cub, last year's calf. And I didn't see mom. I think he was chasing the calf, and I don't know where mom was. But anyway, it worked out fine. I didn't have to shoot anybody, and the dog came back, and he wasn't hurt. So I'm sitting around as I do on Sundays, doing nothing usually, and I see an article pop up on one of the local social media pages about a fatal moose attack. And I'm like, no way. And it happened here in this area, like where I live. And I was like, man, well, what a freaking coincidence. Well, then I was reminded while all that was going on. I can't remember if it was Thursday night or Friday night. I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning because I was having a nightmare that a moose was chasing me and my oldest dog, not the young dog, but the oldest dog was chasing us around. And we weren't like in the woods or anything. We were like in a, like an, not an industrial area, but like there was like concrete steps, and it was almost like a college campus or something. Like we were in like a very urban setting. And this moose was like chasing us around. I think it was like trying to get in the buildings and shit. But so I had that dream about the moose chasing me and my oldest dog. Sunday, my youngest dog chases after a moose, and then I hear about a fatal moose attack like in the air. So I have obviously got moose on the brain. Like I'm like inundated with like moose stuff going on. But I wanted to talk about the fatal moose attack a little bit today. It didn't actually happen. I mean, it happened near me, but not like super close. Probably. Oh, geez, I didn't figure it out. I think it's like, so to get to town is 4 miles, and it's probably another three or so, 4, 5, 6, probably like 8 miles away from here. And I don't think they've made the location public, but we figured out where it was. You can look up like names and property records and stuff like that. So and people had given hints on like social media. But we figured it out. Didn't know the gentleman. I'm going to read the article that came out about it, because initially it was just like a trooper press release. So I'll read you the press release, the trooper press release, and then I'll read you the news article that came a couple of days later. But this was all that was released on Sunday. It says on May 19th, 2024, at 11:52 a.m., Alaska State Troopers received a report of an adult male who was attacked by a cow moose in Homer. The cow moose charged two men, kicking one of them. Medics arrived on scene and declared the victim deceased. Alaska State Troopers and Alaska Wildlife Troopers from Anchor Point responded to the scene. The cow moose has since left the area. The investigation is ongoing. So that came out initially, and like a couple of hours after me and Arlo had our little incident with the moose. So obviously I'm like, I'm clutching my pearls like, oh my God, thank God we're okay. And we're trying to get more information because it's a small town. We know a lot of people. Hopefully this isn't somebody that we know. I don't remember if I talked about it. I think I did. But last year, I believe it was, there was actually a court service officer that was killed by a muskox, like in, I think it was Nome or somewhere. And I didn't know him, but I had worked with his brother. His brother was a police officer, and I had worked with him. So, Alaska is a small state. It's the biggest state, but it's a small state, especially when it comes to like certain professions like police. Like everybody knows everybody, or if you don't know the person, you know somebody that knows them. And so I was wondering if I knew this person or not. It turns out, we did not. Of course, we do know somebody that knows him, is wont to happen in small towns. This is the Anchorage Daily News article on the incident. I will try to remember to include a link to that in the show notes. It says a Homer man who died Sunday after being injured by a cow moose was trying to photograph the moose and two newborn calves, Alaska State Troopers say. Dale Chorman, 70, was walking with a friend through brush about 100 yards from his home when they were charged just before noon on Sunday. Trooper spokesman Austin McDaniel said on Monday. No, Austin. The men were looking for the moose to take photos, he said. When the men saw the animal, they both turned around and began to run, McDaniel said. The other man turned around and saw the animal. They both turned around and began to run. So the other man sorry, I had to turn to the next page. The other man turned and saw Chorman on the ground with the moose standing over him, he said. Troopers on Sunday said the moose charged both men and kicked Chorman. McDaniel on Monday said Chorman was injured during the attack, but the state medical examiner will determine his cause of death. The moose and calves left the area after the attack. Medics declared Chorman dead at the scene, Trooper said. Chorman, a carpenter and builder who was also a naturalist and bear guide, lived in Homer for decades. His son, Nathan Spence Chorman, wrote on social media, Dale died on his property, tromping through the woods with a dear friend in pursuit of a great photograph. This was his favorite thing to do. Dale was highly experienced around wildlife. He was intimately familiar with nature and had no naivete about its danger. This was not a hapless fool stumbling into danger. This was a person who went out looking for a great photo, knowing the risk, and got caught in the dangerous moment. The moose is obviously not at fault, his son wrote. The ungulate mother need not die. She was just protecting her offspring. Dale had remarked the previous day that the brush was particularly thick this year, thick enough to get closer than intended and surprise a wild animal by accident. Cow moose are more likely to become aggressive toward people during late spring and late in summer when they have their young calves. Cow moose will relentlessly defend their calves from any perceived threat, McDaniel said. That's what we believe occurred here. This is an instance we would definitely encourage folks to give cow moose um, a wide berth. Wildlife troopers from Anchor Point responded to the scene. The Alaska Department of Fish and Game is working with troopers to review the incident and determine whether the cow moose poses a public safety risk, McDaniel said. Deep snow over the winter also probably played a role in several run ins with moose within the past 6 months, wildlife officials have said. Two people in Matsu were injured in separate encounters earlier this year, one in Butte and one in Willow. A man walking his dog on the Kenai Peninsula was injured in late December when a moose charged at him on a popular Soldotna trail. So, if you guys follow this show with any regularity, you've heard me say on multiple occasions that I'm often more leery of moose than I am of bear. Uh, I've been up here for a long time, since 2003. No, I'm sorry, since 2001. I've been up here since 2001. And then I left for a short time after I got out of the military, but came back. And, I've had a lot of encounters with wildlife. I've had a lot of opportunity to experience Alaska. I consider Alaska more home than I do Kentucky. Um, and in all those adventures I've had here and all the encounters that I've had with wildlife, I have, knock on wood, I've never been charged by bear, but I have been charged by multiple moose. Um, Sometimes deservedly so. Okay, don't get me wrong; it's not like they were like super aggressively. There's been times where I probably was in a place I wasn't supposed to be or shouldn't have been, or knew that I was like, this is getting a little sketch. I should probably back off. And then, sure enough, the moose charges. There was an occasion. I don't remember if I've told this story before or not. Um, I was working night shift. I just got off work, and usually the way it works when I was on night shift, I would get home at like 7 a.m. And then I'd see the wife and kids for a few minutes, and then they would go off to work and school, and I would go to bed. So I get home, and we had had a lot of snow that night. Like the driveway and the hill that we live on was super sketchy. And I told my wife, I was like, like be careful uh, pulling out because the snow's a little deep and it's a little slick, and I'm worried you might not make it. And so I decided that after they left, I would step outside onto the porch and make sure they made it up the hill. And it's obscured by trees, so I can't really see it. Well, apparently it took me a little bit longer to get outside than I thought, because I thought I get out and I'm thinking like they're still going down the driveway. Well, apparently they had already crested the hill. They were gone. Like they made it no problem. Go Trailblazer. And so I'm outside with my dog. At the time, I had a bull mastiff named Magnum, uh, one of the bestest dogs ever. And he's pottying, and we're about to go hit the sack. Like we're gonna go back to bed, and as long as everybody gets off to work and school, okay. So I've got this really long driveway, and I'm looking down the driveway trying to see if they had made it or not, because it kind of goes around a curve and then disappears, and they go up the hill. And I'm looking, like, did they make it? And I'm listening, and I'm like, did they make it? Are they okay? And I see this figure walking down the driveway, and I'm thinking, oh, here comes my wife. Like they didn't make it. And now I've got to get my truck out and pull them out and figure out what we're going to do. Because getting home is easy because we're going downhill. Getting out of home is not easy because we're going uphill. because you got gravity working against you. But anyway, I see this figure coming down the driveway. I assume it's my wife. I'm assuming she's coming to get me so I can help them either dig out or get pulled out. And I shout down the driveway. I'm like, what happened? And they don't answer me. And it's snowing. It's kind of like blowing snow. It's still kind of coming down. So my visibility is low. And the figure continues to walk down the driveway. And Magnum, the dog, sees the figure and he gets on high alert. He's like, "Oof," like, what is that? He's chuffing at it. And it gets about halfway down the driveway, and I realize that is not anyone in my family. That is a moose. So there's this moose coming down my driveway. So I start yelling, and Magnum realizes about the same time I do that this is not good. So he kind of trots forward a little bit toward the figure, not close, but like toward the parking or the driveway. And I'm yelling at him. I'm like, come on, come on. Well, the moose just out of the blue just starts charging at Magnum. And coincidentally, like toward me because I'm in the vicinity. So I turn around and I run up on the porch and open the door. And I'm like, come on, Magnum, come on. Well, Magnum turns around and starts running with me. So we're like Shaggy and Scooby Doo. We're running from this moose. And I run up on the porch and fling the door open. I hold it open for a second, because I like Magnum's like right behind me. And then I turn around and I shut the door and I'm like looking around. I'm like, where the hell's Magnum? Because I know he had decided he didn't want none of this and he was coming with me. So I look and Magnum's like standing outside at the door, like, let me in. So I open the door and get him in. Well, what had happened is we had run up on the porch. And when I stopped to open the door, there was some snow and ice on the porch and Magnum had slid past the door. I mean, this is straight out of a cartoon. This is like some Scooby-Doo stuff. And then when I get in, shut the door and look around and Magnum's like there, I had to open the door and let him in. And then the moose comes charging by like a freight train. So it ended up all as well as it ends well, but it was really hairy there for a second and it was very comical afterwards. But you got to be careful with the wildlife. You have to respect it. We've had moose with calves here in the yard. I'm sure if you go through my Instagram, both the Alasquatch Instagram and my personal one, or Facebook, I'm sure you'll see plenty of wildlife photographs of moose with calves, bear, just probably all kinds of animals. And I'm probably closer to them than, not necessarily that I should be, than a lot of people would get. And it's because of that complacency, because I feel comfortable. It doesn't mean, like this gentleman in the story, it doesn't mean that I know what I'm doing. I'm not Steve Irwin. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But you get a kind of sense of things to look for when you're dealing with animals. For instance, moose, when their ears go back and their hackles raised, they have like this mane, almost like a horse of hair. Well, it's not like a horse, but it's similar in a similar spot. A mane of hair on a horse, on a moose. If that raises up, not good. If their ears are back and their hackles are raised, not good. Don't mess with that moose. Get away from it. So again, just like bear, you don't want to mess with a mother bear with her cub. You don't want to mess with a mother moose and her calf. There was a video going around a few years ago of a moose chasing down a brown bear and just stomping the crap out of it. And I believe that's the second half of the video. I believe the initial video, the first part of the video, you see the bear like killing the mother moose's calf, and that's the mother coming after the bear. So yeah, I mean, unfortunate situation. When the news first broke, before the ADN article came out, before any news was released, there was some people, posting very not nice things in some of the local Facebook groups, calling the guy a moron, saying he should have known better, stuff like that. Asking if he deserved it, stuff like that. And, very insensitive. And, being military and law enforcement, I get the gallows humor. Like, I get it. Like, I understand why people will make jokes and things at situations like that and stuff that you're not really supposed to. But there's a difference between coping humor and then just being a straight up asshole. Like, there was a dude, he actually ended up deleting his comment, but it was so insensitive. Like, I made note of the dude's name, and I'm like, if I ever come in contact with this dude, like, I'm not gonna have anything to do with him. And that's the kind of stuff that like gets people, like, they lose out on jobs and opportunities and stuff like that because people see stuff like that and they're like, this guy is not right. I am not doing any having anything to do with him. And I don't necessarily think that cancel culture is like a good thing, but occasionally there's like a red flag that you're just like, I can't ignore that. Like, this might be the sign of an underlying problem that maybe should not be ignored. That's maybe like a like a sign in nature, like with the moose with the hackles up. Like, this might be a sign that maybe I should avoid this person. Um, so yeah, I think that guy, he ended up deleting his comment. I almost uh I don't, maybe I did take a, I don't think I took a screenshot of it, but I debated on reading it here and I was like, no, no, we don't need to do that. We don't need to draw that kind of attention to it. But it was it was a rough couple of days online with people, debating what happened. People saying like, oh, we'll figure out what happened and figure out if he deserved it or not. And there's a lot of people that probably, are saying that he did deserve it because he shouldn't have got toward the moose and her calf. And I don't necessarily believe that. Like, he was going out there to take a picture. He wasn't going out there to harm them. Of course, the moose doesn't know that, though. The moose doesn't have the capacity to differentiate between, this is a nice person who's just going to take my picture, and this is somebody who's going to try and, this is a predator that's going to eat my babies. So they just don't have that capacity. And kudos to his son for recognizing that and saying that the moose doesn't deserve to die. I don't know that I would have the same forgiveness. And like I just said, I realize the moose doesn't have the capacity for that. But if my dog, who chased the moose, had gotten trampled, even though it was completely the dog's fault, I don't know that I would have not John Wicked it, like salt revenge. I can't sit here and look at you in the eye and say I wouldn't do that because um, it wouldn't bring my dog back, but it would make me feel better. So, I am who I am. But I don't know. You guys, you got to respect the wildlife. In fact, just as I was coming on to record this episode, something popped up in my news feed about tourists cornering a moose in Yellowstone, and it didn't go well. I didn't read the entire article, but apparently this is happening more and more. The day after this news broke, so Monday, my wife has to drive around quite a bit for her work. She was telling me that near where this incident happened, near that road or the main road that connects to this subdivision where this occurred, she saw a calf with twins, and there was a gentleman outside of his car, stopped on the side of the road, taking pictures. Very good chance it could have been the same moose. And this guy, either maybe he didn't hear about this incident, uh, or didn't think it was, connected. A very good chance it was probably the same moose. It was in the same general area, from what I understand, from the direction she told me. And there's a guy, on the side of the road, probably way closer than he should have been, taking pictures of these baby moose. That's one of the things. Like, why are baby animals so cute? They attract attention. So I don't understand. Is it a defense mechanism where it's like, yeah, it'll attract the humans, but they won't kill them because they're so cute? But yeah, I feel bad for the guy's family. Um, I understand that a lot of times when I go out in the woods, I could meet a similar fate. Uh, I like to think that I can recognize a lot of situations where, okay, this is not good. This animal isn't happy. I'm gonna discreetly as I can get out of the situation. But that's not always the case. Sometimes things just, there's been a couple of times where I didn't know a moose was around. One time, just I think it's been in the last year or two. Uh, I had one of the dogs out here in the front yard on a leash, thank God. And we're just he's going potty, and then a moose just comes running out of the tree line at us. And luckily, I was standing up on the porch and was able to pull. He's on a harness. He didn't have a collar on. He's on a harness. Able to pull the dog away from the moose, and we were able to get away. But I had no idea the moose was there until it started charging. Even if I had had a gun on me, I don't know that I would have been able to stop the moose. If I hadn't been on the porch, we probably would have got it. We would have got trampled. Not I would have got the moose. So sometimes you just you know there's that saying about sometimes the bullet has to whom it may concern on it, and that's the same case. Sometimes you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Situational awareness is about the only way to combat it, and even sometimes that's not enough. If an animal is concealed, you can't see it, it's quiet. Sometimes animals just don't, not every animal is like a rattlesnake and gives a warning. And they're gonna if they want to get you, they're gonna get you, especially bears and moose, things that are so big. uh, that's one of the things I say about living in the lower 48. I see all these guys complaining about the snakes and the ticks and the little the little thing, those little spiders, the poisonous ones like the brown recluses and stuff like that. And I'm like, at least I live in a place where the most dangerous animals are big enough that you can hear and see them coming most of the time, instead of just like, oh, I'm going to set down on this log and then you're dead because something that big bit you and you're not going to be able to get to help in time. So I will take a moose or a bear any day over a spider in my shoe that I that I can't see, that will kill me. So those are my thoughts about it. I had a gentleman reach out to me one time from Australia, Clive, a good friend now, and he was just like, "I don't know how you guys do it. How do you guys tromp around in the woods with those bears and moose out there?" And I'm like, "How do you do it, man? Like you're living in Australia." If I saw a huntsman spider, I would probably die fright. I would kill over dead. Have you seen those things? They're ginormous. They're bigger than my head, and they are freaking terrifying. From what I understand, they're harmless. They're not poisonous. But if I saw a spider that big, it would just be it for me. Like that's like nightmare stuff level fuel right there. Like that would just be like the Exorcist with the girl's head spinning around. Like that's that level of terror for me in real life. If I saw one of those spiders, could not handle it, could not compute it. So it's relative, man. When I went through the police academy, there was a guy, one of the troopers that was speaking was telling us about talking to some cops from LA, and the LA cops were like, how in the world do you guys like do it? Like you guys, sometimes you're the only one on duty, the only cop for miles. Like, how do you handle that? And the trooper was like, how do you guys, like, I wouldn't go into LA with like a platoon of troops and a freaking tank. How do you guys handle it? And it was just, it's just what you're comfortable with, what I guess. Everybody's a little different. And I guess tolerances to bugs and animals and environment is no different. So anyway, guys, that's about all I got for you. Short episode today. I wanted to talk about that. Be safe. In fact, today, I'm getting my gear together. I'm getting ready, and I pulled my bear spray out and made sure it was still good. Those things have expiration dates on them. Be sure to check them. It's starting time to get out in the woods again. So check your gear. Make sure that it is still within the useful dates. I was digging through some meals I had, some like MREs and stuff, and I found one that had an expiration of 2021. Had no idea. I thought the thing was it was a different one. It was one I like picked up at like a Sportsman's Warehouse or something in Washington, and it's not a normal one of the normal brands I get. It's not the freeze dried stuff. And I thought like, oh, this is probably good for like 10, 15 years, like most of them are. And apparently it expired in 20, which is probably around the time I bought it, 2021. So make sure while you're going through your gear, when you're getting your stuff ready to go out this year, check the dates on your food, your bug spray, bear spray, stuff like that, because stuff does go bad. And there's certain things that you need to keep up on. Um, we had, obviously we wore the Kevlar vests when I was a police officer, and those have like a 5-year lifespan according to the manufacturer. And every 5 years, you're supposed to get a new one because what they say is after 5 years, the material, the Kevlar, will start to break down. It'll start to, like, I guess, decompose, lose its effectiveness, whatever. Personally, it's probably just the manufacturer wanting to sell more vests. They're probably actually, and I'm sure they're good for longer than that. But at the same time, like, this is very, very, very important. This isn't like some milk in the fridge that's a couple of days out of date. Like, this is your life that you're talking about. And we had an administrator. I would go to him and be like, "Hey, my vest is expiring at the end of this year," and he'd be like, "Oh, well, I'm sure we don't sweat as much as they do in the lower 48, so it'll probably be okay if you wear it a little longer." And I'm like, No, no, buy me a new vest." And that's the kind of stuff. That's the kind of admin stuff that blows my mind. Where you're like, can you imagine if you got shot and your vest didn't work the way it was supposed to, and it was expired, and you're like, "I went to admin and asked for a new vest and they told me no." Like, you would probably end up owning that city if you survived. Um, you should always send that kind of stuff in the email form, by the way, so you have a paper trail. It's a fact for you. You write that down, remember it, make a paper trail. Yeah, always request stuff like that on email and save the email and save the replies, especially if they say no. So anyway, guys, that's it. That's all I got for you. I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna start packing. I'm hoping the rain's gonna slow down here in a minute. I can get my truck out and start throwing stuff in it and preparing for my weekend with Rob, Roy, and Chuke. You might see some content coming from us here in the next couple of weeks from that trip. Hopefully, if we find some stuff. If not, I'm sure we'll have a good time camping and talking about cryptids in Alaska. So in the meantime, while I'm gone, while I'm out camping and enjoying myself, you can head over to the AlaskaWatchPodcast.com website. There's a little store in there. In that store, there are books and stickers and shirts and hats, and you can pick yourself up something nice. And everything you spend goes towards this, me doing the podcast, paying for internet and podcast hosting, and putting gas in the car to get out on these excursions and look for Bigfoot. So every little bit helps. Also, if you want to hang out with me in person and maybe buy a book and get it signed, I will be at Monster Fest 2 in Canton, Ohio in June. I believe that's at the end of June, the last weekend in June. And I'll be hanging out there with some of my buddies. I think Alex Petikov is going to be there, Seth Breedlove, the Sasquatch Experience guys with Fork Chop and those guys, and some new guys. I'm looking forward to meeting the Astonishing Legends guys. I think they're going to be there. Hopefully I get to hang out with them at least a little bit. I really enjoy the podcast. If you guys are still listening, I know I've been saying goodbye for like 5 minutes. The Astonishing Legends, like 6-part series on the Patterson Gimlin film, is excellent. And if you ever have, like, if you're having a debate or something with somebody over the PG film, you should definitely check that out or try and get them to check it out because it's very interesting. But anyway, guys, I'm going to put a pin in it there. I will pick it up when I get back from the woods, hopefully, and hopefully safely and in one piece. The rest of you guys, be really careful out there in the woods and, learn how to take care of yourselves. And that's it. I'm up in Alaska and the beans abides.